Where we are now, roughly 100 plus Palestinians have been killed despite the fact that we're under an active ceasefire. And the Israelis use the excuse of the missing bodies as to why they are continuing to attack Gaza. But the Israelis negotiate in bad faith knowing that it would be damn near impossible for Hamas to actually get the bodies back to them the way that they want in the timeline that they want, because the bodies are under the rubble, because the Israelis are the ones that bombed them into oblivion and killed them.
Foreign Affairs Gideon Sa'ar responded to this and said this was merely a preliminary move by one of Israel's members of Knesset, which saw no support from the Israeli government, and stressed that the government is aligned with President Trump. It will not be advancing the move as it's committed to Trump's peace plan. As high-level American officials continue to arrive.
And we got social media for it. The Miley Massacre, the Cookie Monster event. We didn't have cameras to document that shit. But we definitely have cameras to document what happened in Gaza, bro. Genocide in 4K. Brought to you by Twitter.
In Israel, from Vice President J.D. Vance and envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And the thing that pisses me off the most about this is that the Israelis, to this day, a lot of them deny that it's a genocide when we see it with our own eyes. Then they get mad when you talk about the Cookie Monster event and that 6 number.
Rubio, who arrived today. The U.S. is deeply immersed in the implementation of the ceasefire and the post-war Gaza peace plan. To discuss what these diplomatic moves mean for Israel, we're now joined by Ruthie Bloom of JNS. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining, Ruthie. So we're seeing here a strong American presence on the ground with Trump and Witkoff and Kushner and Vance and now Rubio arriving to Israel. What does this level of engagement tell us about the U.S. peace plan and strategy at this stage of the war and the ceasefire?
Well, it tells you something good and something not so good. The good part is that it's clear that the Trump administration really is in lockstep with the Netanyahu administration. On the other hand, it's one of these moves.
Yeah, we really can't control them. They do whatever they want, which is the problem. No one can control these Israelis. They're out of control.
That indicates, you know, it's knocking on the open door. All of these talks about peace, 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 peace. You know, first of all, let's see Hamas return the remaining 13 dead bodies that it's holding in Gaza, which is...
All right, let's talk about this. This is super important. And let's talk about this. I discussed this on a couple of interviews that I did. I think I talked about this with Devory Darkins, but some of you guys didn't tune into that interview. So let's really go into the weeds and talk about this, okay? Hope y'all niggas are ready. Smash the like button. It's time to cook, okay? Now, as you guys know, there was a peace plan that was put, a 20-point peace plan, okay? Many of the points of this peace plan were already put in several other agreements before. But after growing pressure on Israel, as well as Hamas, they finally came to a middle ground and were able to get this peace plan through to the finish line, okay? Now, some of the most important things were the return of all the 20 hostages that were alive, and return of roughly 20 corpses, okay? Also, one of the things that was important but hasn't actually been accomplished was Hamas was supposed to disarm. Obviously, Hamas refuses to disarm because they don't trust the Israelis. Same exact situation with Hezbollah, right? But they're able to agree on enough things to be able to get the hostages back that are alive. Now, very important that you guys pay attention to what I'm about to say. The Israelis do this all the time, where they put what's called a poison pill into the deal that they know more than likely will not be able to be accomplished within the time frame given. And what this allows them to do is to break the ceasefire and conduct more killing. Up to this point, where we are now, roughly 100 plus Palestinians have been killed despite the fact that we're under an active ceasefire. And the Israelis use the excuse of the missing bodies as to why they are continuing to attack Gaza. They also made a claim that they were shot at by like a RPG or some type of explosive device or IED that was conducted by Hamas. But in reality, it was really IDF technology that caused that explosion, whether it was an RPG or an IED that was tripped off, okay? So those are the two main things right now that the Israelis are using to justify their continued aggression and military warfare, despite the fact that we're supposed to be under a complete ceasefire. Now, when it comes to the bodies, Hamas has returned a significant amount of the corpses. But the reason why Hamas can't return the rest, and you guys, I shit you not what I'm about to tell you, the reason why is because the bodies are under rubble. Well, wait, Myra, what are you talking about? Yes, the bodies are under the rubble, chat. The bodies are under the rubble. Now, one with common sense needs to ask themselves, if Hamas has hostages that are dead, why are they under the rubble? I thought Hamas killed them. Why are they under the rubble? I'll tell you why. They're under the rubble because Israel bombed them. Okay? Ta-da! That is why. So Israel manufactured the very problem that is keeping them from getting what they want, allegedly. But the reality is that they don't want the corpses back, and they never cared about the hostages either. It was only from enormous pressure by Donald Trump and the international community that both of these parties came together and made this half-ass ceasefire. But the Israelis negotiated in bad faith, knowing that it would be damn near impossible for Hamas to actually get the bodies back to them the way that they want, in the timeline that they want, because the bodies are under the rubble, because the Israelis are the ones that bombed them into oblivion and killed them. This counteracts the Israeli narrative that they used for literally 2 years, saying Hamas killed the hostages. This is not true. And the reason why it's not true is because it's common sense. If you're an inferior military that doesn't have the capability of standing up to the IDF and your only leverage that you have are the hostages, why would you kill and or destroy the only leverage you have to get your hostages back? It makes no sense. Also, when Palestinians take captives, the strategy is always to get their people back, like they did with Gilad Shalit in other situations. And this is precisely why the Israelis kill Israelis that are being kidnapped by Palestinians with the Hannibal Directive, which I've talked about before. And it absolutely was implemented on that day. We have proof of this because Yoav Gallant admitted this on Israeli television. So what is the bottom line here? The bottom line is this. After much pressure from Donald Trump and the international community on Israel because of their reckless foreign policy and the optics of what's going on with the genocide and them bombing Qatar, the Israelis had to accept this deal, the very same deal that they've rejected many times before. And with pressure from Hamas, with their people starving and dying, they also had to accept the deal. And they got recognized by France, Canada, and the UK as a Palestinian state. So honestly, their mission was kind of accomplished. So it no longer served benefit for them to hold on to the hostages. But the Israelis negotiated with the poison pill in place, knowing that they wouldn't be able to get the bodies. And the reason why this is also important is because this does not just give the Israelis more excuses to continue bombing Gaza. It also gives them the excuse where they don't have to bring in all the aid that they promised. So it's not just them bombing. Now they can continue with the same starvation tactics they said before. We know that roughly 500 to 600 trucks are required to come into Gaza to keep the people from dying. During the worst parts of the famine, only roughly 20 to 50 of these trucks were coming in every day. And right now, hundreds of trucks are missing a day because the Israelis are saying, oh, well, Hamas reneged on the part of the deal because they didn't give us all the bodies. Knowing that the bodies are under the rubble because they're the ones that them with the airstrikes. And this is yet again another example of why I say that the Israelis cannot be trusted, and this is a genocidal apartheid ethno-state, and I don't mean to sound like liberal wokey, but the truth is the truth, and this is one of the things that I actually agree with radical leftists on. Israel is a problem. They don't negotiate in good faith, they don't see the Palestinians as human beings, and quite frankly, if we're up to them, they would kill all the Palestinians and just take the land in the first place. Many Israelis feel this way. And actually, I'm sad to say, a majority of them feel this way. A poll was done and something like 70-80% said they didn't give a that there was a genocide going on with the Palestinians. The only reason they wanted the war to stop was so that the hostages came back. They did not want the war to stop because kids were dying. Whereas someone like me, and people that are a bit more objective and not hate-filled, I wanted the hostages to go back, but at the same time, I wanted the kids to stop dying too. The Israelis only cared about the former. So that is where we stand with the Gaza peace plan, chat.